a couple random thoughts. The first one you might not expect from me, but the newspapers and cable shows are filled with Johnny Depp's divorce from his wife, the actress Amber Heard is her name. Now, to be honest with you, I'm not very familiar with this story. I have no interest in the details of anybody's divorce. But there is an aspect of this story that I think is important when it comes to identity and when it comes to treating people fairly and when it comes to treating media bias. Now, this was written about in Think Progress by Casey Quinlan, and I think Casey Quinlan brought an important issue to light regarding this coverage, which is that a lot of the newspapers insist, and other media insist on describing Ms. Heard as Johnny Depp's, and I quote, bisexual wife. They don't explain why bisexuality might be relevant to the case. They don't. They just describe her as bisexual, his bisexual wife. Some even write that she is "quote unquote" openly bisexual or admits to being bisexual. Now, it's easy to understand what's wrong with that kind of phrasing, as far as I'm concerned. If you say that someone's openly bisexual, you're kind of, or openly gay, or openly whatever they might be, you're kind of suggesting that they might have reason to hide it, that it would be appropriate to hide it. And certainly to say that someone admits to being bisexual, it's one step away from calling somebody a self-confessed bisexual. That is, in other words, it's implying that there's something guilty about it. That's wrong. It's clear that it's wrong. But I would also argue that it's wrong to say Johnny Depp's bisexual wife, unless it's relevant to the story. If there's another party, believe me, which I will never read, by the way, that there's another party involved or whatever, that you wouldn't understand if you didn't know she was bisexual. But they never say that. They just say bisexual wife. Now, you might be saying, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with bringing up, mentioning the fact that she's bisexual? Well, let me give you another example then. What if all the newspapers were saying Johnny Depp's short skirt wearing wife? Then it would be implying that a woman who wears short skirts is a certain kind of woman, right? That maybe she's flamboyant, maybe she's an exhibitionist, maybe there's something wrong with her, maybe that has something to do with the divorce, right? Because maybe a man doesn't want to be married to a woman who wears short skirts. So basically, by bringing her sexuality in this way into the story, and then you get to the absurd. What if they said Johnny Depp's plaid-loving wife, or Johnny Depp's Andre 3000 loving wife? You'd be saying, well, what does that have to do with it? So by bringing this into it, I would argue, and I would agree with Casey Quinlan, that they're suggesting that either they're doing it as a salacious detail, or they're doing it because they're suggesting there's something wrong with it. They're insinuating something. I don't like it. I think one of the, people complain about political correctness. So I think political correctness, when it's done right, is just people being sensitive about the feelings and the rights and respect towards other human beings who may in some way be different from themselves. So that's it. That's all I got to say about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. I will close with one other thought about identity and how identity is used against us and against people who deserve better. Let's talk about millennials. The stereotypes about millennials are disparaging, they are unfair, they are wrong, and I would argue they are being used, consciously or not, for nefarious purposes. We constantly hear that millennials are self-indulgent, that they're self-centered, that they don't leave home, they hang around the house too long, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This kind of talk really bothers me. Let me tell you what I think is really happening to millennials, and they know it almost better than anyone. Millennials have been victimized by a system that exploited them for student debt, promised them good jobs when they came out of college, and instead has allowed job opportunity, wealth, job growth, economic growth, productivity gains, all to go to the top 0.01%, leaving millennials holding the bag with tons of student debt, no job opportunities, and no place to go. Now, let's close with that cliche that millennials don't leave home. The Pew Research Center just put out a report talking about the kind of millennials who live at home. Are they spoiled? Are they entitled entitled? Are they lazy? No. The millennials who are most likely to live at home come from groups that have already been marginalized by just the kind of selfish billionaire-driven economy I just described. They're more likely to be minorities. They're more likely to be unemployed. They're more likely not to have a college degree. These are the ones who have been stuck at home, the orphans, the stranded people, stranded by an economy run by the selfish, of the selfish, and for the selfish. We need a new economy that does justice to the millennials in this country and to the rest of us as well.